Here we are in the tractor, and an update, a very important one. Here's the shifter so you kind of know where we are. Basically under the front edge of the seat there's this clevis and a rod and stuff. And what happens is this is tied to the clutch pedal. See it move? See this rod right here rotates? Now, that's called an interlock. Excuse me. A lot of tractors don't have that. This one's a 2004 and they have it. What it does is you can't shift gears unless the clutch is pushed in. The interlock here has some ball bearings in it, and it keeps the rods from moving in and out with the shifter moves. So like right now I'm not pushing on the clutch. There's no way to get the into any gear. So you push the, see there? It's not perfect, but it sure works. I just figured it out a couple days ago. And the the bell crank underneath here had fallen apart. It's down underneath the footboard here. It had fallen apart, and so this thing was impossible to get into any gear or change, like from first to reverse, which you do a lot. It was a real pain in the butt. So the thing I recommend is you make sure that underneath this floorboard the linkage is correctly assembled. Make sure that the bolts are tight. These Chinese tractors, man, this thing, at least for me, has had, I don't know what I'm up to now, 2.5 dozen loose bolts. Just found another one this morning. So it's real, and you got to make sure you stay on top of it. But anyway, you know, I do think about maybe removing this and the ball bearings and the spring. It's just a little ball and spring, and there's a detent in the shift rods. There's 4 shift rods because this is a 4-speed with reverse. This is what they call the, I don't know, the granny setup or something like that, where you've got a lever here and another lever here. So this is a gearbox reduction, this is a rear end reduction. So you can get this thing to go so slow you could pull a house off the foundation, but I don't usually need that. But anyway, this detent is not in much documentation for the last few years. They probably got rid of it, and I don't blame them. It's I don't know if I'm going to keep it. So far, like this morning, I did a bunch of test work, and it worked fine. Here's the major clue. Now, you see it's pointing up pretty steeply, and that would be out of bounds, so the thing won't shift. So let me make sure I show you where it does shift. So this is about horizontal right there. So from horizontal to down about 30 degrees is the sweet spot. So this thing can shift gears really nicely. If it's below that or above horizontal, it will not shift gears. This thing has just been impossible for all the months that I've owned it, until I figured out, you look underneath and the thing had fallen completely apart. I'm lucky I didn't lose the parts driving around the area on the ground. So anyway, so that is what I discovered, and I'm very happy to have figured it out. I still may rip all that out. It just depends on how it behaves. Not being able to shift gears quickly is a serious pain in the butt. These are not synchronized transmissions. So, but what I can do is if I'm in first gear and I'm rolling, I can shift into second and into third and into fourth. So it's not synchronized. You kind of got to let it hesitate a second when you push the clutch in, but I've done it several times. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, so if you have this on your tractor, you'll see it very rarely mentioned in the manuals, and it's called interlock. And man, what a pain in the butt to... I had to figure it out by myself. There's nothing online, and the manuals don't have squat about it. And so The adjustment, it's not as good as it should be. This clevis, for instance, is way at the end of the rod here, of that push rod, and there's another clevis adjustment that's also at very near the end. So I don't think that is by design, but that's how I got it to work. So the other thing that I've learned recently that's really a big deal is make sure that your pedals come all the way back up to the top of their travel. See, touch it, comes right back up. Touch it, comes right back up. Now, the left pedal, the return spring has a lot more work to do than the right pedal. And the reason is there's a shaft for the left pedal that goes across the bottom of the tractor to the other side to activate the left brake. And so it has several bearings, more like bushings, and you have to add grease to them. And I've done all that, but the spring is everything. So I added a spring. You can see next to my foot there's a bolt head right here, and I rigged a short heavy-duty spring from there to the linkage to pull that pedal back up. Now, the whole reason for this is the right brake just needed a little adjustment, and it'll lock the tire right up. So that means it's functional. The left brake, no matter how you adjust it, if you remove the little arm from the splines on the brake housing down there, and any way you want to do this, this will not engage. The brake pads will not touch the drum, no matter what. There's no adjustment you can do. It's just literally worn out. And I think what happened is this pedal, the left one, has been sagging down because the spring isn't strong enough to overcome all the drag in the linkage as this thing ages. And so it wore the pads down. So I ordered a set of pads. When you buy them here in the United States, they're $65 plus or minus. So when I get those, I'll put those on, and that should take care of the left side. Right now I have just one brake, but because I'm just running up and down my neighborhood street on the dirt, it's no big deal. But you do want two brakes, especially if you're carrying buckets full of gravel or whatever. So make sure those two pedals and your clutch pedal all return all the way to the top of their travel with relative ease. You don't want it being stiff. If you have to rig it with an additional spring or whatever, do it. This is hugely important because it's expensive to replace this stuff. It should last a lot longer than it has on this tractor. We only have 287 hours, but it's 16 years old. So anyway, those are the couple things that I've uncovered that are really important to this thing's operation. Now, you see that plastics bag material I put in place of the boot. The boot was worn out. So I took the shifter, I took this plate out with the 4 bolts, took the shifter out, cleaned everything in there really well, and used moly grease to grease the ball in the socket. And that helped a little bit. It's a maintenance item that should be done every couple of years, I'm imagining. But then I've got another, with the pads coming, I've got a boot coming for that. So I put a real boot on there to keep the weather out. But lubricating it helped a tiny bit, but getting this stupid detent thing to function was 99% of the battle. So now the thing shifts really well. Was there any other great things I need to do? No, I think that's it for now. I'm rambling a little bit, but this took quite a while to figure this out. I'm shooting this from above, so you can't see the angle of this very well, but it's attached to the brake pedal, and it has to be about horizontal or lower, and then you can shift. I can even show you. I can shift. See, I can shift. If I let off, you can't shift out of gear or into gear. So it's a big deal to get this right. Alright, anyway, and I've got plans to fix the the gauges and the needles. I wanted to get the thing driving right, so this is Thursday. Parts arriving on Saturday, theoretically. The brake parts, and I will put the brakes on, and then the very next thing I think will be these gauges to see if I can put some needles on those hubs, or put needles from another gauge cluster on there so I can use this. Anyway, so the old tractor did quite a bit of work this morning, the most work since I've owned it, but now it's very functional. It shifts great, and the pedals are returning because of all the things I just mentioned. Use your grease zerks religiously, grease them, especially on linkages. Everything's important. If it has a grease zerk on it, it's important. So anyway, I'm rambling, gotta roll. Talk to you later. See you, bye.